January 1781, the Broad River country of South Carolina. A column of British cavalry crashes through the underbrush at a dead run, chasing what looks like a beaten, retreating American army. At the front of that cavalry rides Banastre Tarleton, 26 years old. Already infamous, already feared. He has never lost. He has never needed to think twice before ordering a charge. What he doesn't know yet is that the army in front of him isn't retreating at all. It's walking him into a kill box designed around the one thing Tarleton can't control, his own reputation. Within the hour, the most feared cavalry unit in the British Army will be broken beyond repair, and the man who broke it will be someone the British Army had already written off as finished. Daniel Morgan was 45 years old in January 1781, and by any reasonable measure, his career should have been over. He'd started as a teamster, hauling supplies during the French and Indian War, a job that ended with 500 lashes from a British officer for insubordination, a punishment Morgan survived and never forgot. He fought in the opening battles of the Revolution, marched his riflemen 600 miles to join the siege of Boston, and led the disastrous assault on Quebec in the dead of winter, where he was captured and later exchanged. He fought at Saratoga, where his sharpshooters played a decisive role in breaking the British lines, and then, passed over for promotion and worn down by crippling sciatica, he resigned his commission and went home to Virginia. By every measure that mattered to the Continental Congress, Daniel Morgan was finished, but the war wasn't finished with him. By late 1780, the Southern campaign had collapsed into disaster. Charleston had fallen, Camden had fallen, in a defeat so total that General Horatio Gates fled the battlefield ahead of his own army. The British, under Lord Cornwallis, were pushing to finish off the Carolinas, and the man doing the dirty work of hunting down American resistance was Banastre Tarleton, the cavalry commander whose name alone triggered panic. Tarleton had built his reputation on speed and ruthlessness. At the Waxhaws, his dragoons had cut down surrendering Continental soldiers, and the phrase, Tarleton's quarter, came to mean no mercy at all. He didn't just win battles. He terrorized the countryside into submission before he even arrived. General Nathaniel Greene, newly given command of the shattered Southern Army, made an unusual decision. He split his already outnumbered force in two, sending Morgan, recalled to service, now a brigadier general, west with roughly 600 men to threaten British supply lines in the South Carolina backcountry. Cornwallis, furious at the audacity of it, ordered Tarleton to hunt Morgan down and destroy him. It was, on paper, no contest. Tarleton had more men, more cavalry, more artillery, and momentum from months of victory. Morgan had militia, a scattering of Continentals, and a bad hip that sometimes left him unable to walk. Here's the detail that explains everything about how this battle actually gets won. Morgan didn't try to outfight Tarleton. He studied him. He knew Tarleton's entire career was built on one pattern: locate the enemy, charge immediately, overwhelm through speed, and shock before the other side could organize a real defense. Tarleton had never been forced to slow down and think, because no one had ever given him a reason to. Morgan's plan wasn't a battle plan in the traditional sense. It was a psychological trap, built entirely around provoking the one reaction Tarleton could be counted on to have every single time. On the night of January 16th, 1781, Morgan chose his ground at a stretch of pasture land known as the Cowpens, open, gently sloped, with no swamps or woods nearby to hide in. Any conventional general would have called this terrain suicidal for a force expected to retreat. Morgan wanted exactly that reputation to reach Tarleton's ears. He set up 3 lines, not 2. The first line held his least reliable troops, militia skirmishers, Men everyone assumed would break and run at first contact. Morgan walked among them personally that night and told them something specific. Fire 2 shots, just 2, aimed at the officers, and then you're free to fall back. No one will call you cowards. That single instruction mattered more than almost anything else that happened the next day, because it turned an expected collapse into a controlled, orderly withdrawal. One that looked, from a distance, exactly like the panicked Tarleton was primed to see. At dawn on January 17th, Tarleton's men arrived exhausted from a punishing overnight march and immediately did exactly what Morgan expected. Seeing militia in front of him, Tarleton ordered an immediate frontal assault without pausing to scout the ground or consider what lay behind that first line. The militia fired their 2 shots, dropped several British officers, and fell back just as instructed. To Tarleton, this looked like the beginning of a rout. He pushed his infantry and cavalry harder, straight into Morgan's second line of Continentals and experienced militia, who held their ground and delivered devastating volleys at close range. Even then, the fight was still winnable for the British, until Morgan's third line, hidden behind a rise, wheeled around at exactly the right moment and slammed into the British flank, while American cavalry under William Washington struck from the other side. What had looked, seconds earlier, like a retreating American army had transformed into a closing trap on 3 sides. Tarleton's infantry, confused by the sudden reversal, began surrendering in large groups. His cavalry, the unit that had never needed to fight a real defensive battle, broke and fled the field entirely, leaving their own infantry behind. Tarleton himself barely escaped, engaging briefly with William Washington's dragoons before riding off the field in retreat. His once feared legion shattered behind him. The numbers tell the story bluntly. In under an hour, Morgan's force killed or wounded over 100 British troops and captured more than 700, nearly Tarleton's entire command, while losing only a handful of his own men. It remains one of the most complete tactical victories of the entire Revolutionary War, and it broke something in the British Southern campaign that never fully recovered. Cornwallis, enraged and desperate to catch Morgan before he could escape with his prisoners, pushed his own army into the grueling chase that would eventually lead him, months later, to a place called Yorktown. Historians still point to Cowpens as a textbook double envelopment, taught at military academies, alongside ancient battles like Cannae. But what made it possible wasn't classical tactics on paper. It was Morgan's understanding that the fastest way to beat an undefeated enemy is to let him do exactly what he's always done, on ground you chose, at a time you control. Today, the Cowpens battlefield sits quiet under Carolina pines, a modest national park where almost nothing suggests that a career soldier the Continental Congress had already given up on once turned a British legend's greatest strength into the reason for his ruin.